Okay, so let's not waste any time because it's all about time and dates today. Hopefully that made you laugh. Section 24. So in general, what I try to do is teach you tidyverse, every single thing within the tidyverse, because that is a comprehensive way of doing data science. If you go into machine learning, there's tidy models, do statistics, tidy models. There's other tidy things that, that are part of that, RStudio posit world. But there's things that are in base R. You don't necessarily know this, but there's a difference between R and RStudio. RStudio is a platform where you can program in R, and R is just a programming language in and of itself. And today's going to be the first day we're actually going to really talk about some base things in R, because you're going to see some symbols at times or some like names, and when I was first learning it didn't make sense, but then now it's like, okay, that's what's going on. So in terms of dates, we're going to work with dates first. And truth being told, we call this a string, and traditionally speaking, it fits in a year, month, day format that, is recognized by the computer. This will actually work, okay? This string, if you put as.date, this function will turn it into a date variable. So if you are a date type of variable, type of information. So you do string, it tells you that it is now a date. But if I didn't do this, if I didn't call it date, and I just ran this, it's going to call it, it's just a string or character. Okay? So we can turn it into a date, and the reason why that's important is so that we can work with it as if it were to be a date, not necessarily a string. Okay? So now this is where we're going to go into base R. Again, as.date is a base R function, but these two things, POSIX CT and POSIX LT, or POSIX, stands for Portable Operating System Interface. It's a convention that's used across multiple operating systems so that multiple computers can have the same way of working with dates. So if you ever see that, it's just, that's the way the date is actually formatted. So you can turn a string, because this is our character, into a POSIX type. And this is called calendar time. So since 1970, at January 1st, it's been counting the number of seconds since that particular time, and it's called epoch. And so if you run this, you'll see that it's now it tells you the amount of time since 1970. Okay, whereas local time, what that provides you is just a representation of the same information, but more so in terms of the year, month, and day. So if you run this, it's going to do the same exact thing. But if you were to say, structure of date time here, should say this is POSIX. That's what you do it. You set it as. And then if I do it here, it should give me LT. They're both used commonly. But it's just important to you at least to know that they exist. Okay, these are two different formats of time. One's regarding in terms of moments and regarding seconds. One is just in terms of the year, month, day, and hours. It's easier for you to extract those pieces of information if it's as a LT. Alright, so let's move on to Lubridate. So Lubridate is a part of the tidyverse family, and what it allows you to do is have the capacity to work with dates and being able to extract various aspects of dates as well as time. So let's go a little bit deeper what I mean by that. So here, this is just a little test. We're gonna do time first, but this allows us to at least see if we can turn the same string or same character into a date variable. So if I were to save this and just call this DT, and then run this string or structure DT, this should tell me that it is a time related or date related string rather than it just being a character. So it's the same thing as that date, but this Lubridate will give us more functionality, more intuitive functionality over working with dates compared to these other techniques. So in terms of handling time, there's this function called HMS for hours, minutes, and seconds. And so what this does is allows you to write it in terms of a string and then save it as hours, minutes, and seconds. Keep saying string, it's a character, it works interchangeably here. So I'm going to say this is a time 1. Okay. When I run this, okay, let's just do time 1. It's going to tell it to me that it's time 18 hours, 54 minutes, 2 seconds, which is cool. So 18, this is the hours, place, minutes, seconds. So what I can now do is utilize the function hour. Okay. Let's see. It tells me that it's hour, it's 18. So there's functionality behind extracting certain elements of a string the time variable that used to be a string, a character, and being able to get the hours, minutes, and seconds. And so here, once you have it in this particular format, you can start doing manipulation. So this is saying that the time 1 is 18 hours and 54 minutes and 2 seconds. And then you're saying that time 2 is, it's 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Now we can actually add the time. Okay? And so you can now see it's 57 minutes and 7 seconds. A side note, because again, this is just, it might be boring, but at the same time, I think it's imperative that I can at least give you a foundation on how these functions and these things work. But if you go to Lubridate within help, they'll tell you a bunch of functions, even within time, that you have access to in terms of working with time-related data. We'll do more of that in class in terms of an example, but some nice one. This is days. You can see the difference in time. You can calculate the time interval. Again, this is another measurement. So on and so forth. Seconds, minutes, hours. Kind of did the same thing just now. Okay, so there are a lot of different functions that you can use to work with time within Lubridate. Alright, so working with dates is similar, but a little bit different. So we already saw this yesterday, 10/17/2023. That's today. And this will give me access. This will turn this into this character into a date variable that we can actually use and manipulate. But here I provide some examples of counting the number of days in between between two dates. So this in and of itself, I'll run both of them. The interval, this creates an interval between this 10th of October to the 17th, but I can actually subtract these two. This should give me a negative number, I think. Let's see what happens. Okay, negative 7 days. Okay, because it's the difference between those days. And we can also utilize, let's see, another functionality within dates. So here we already ran this, did some checking. We can turn this, or we can just let's pipe it. This is not gonna work, but I'm gonna as dot duration. I didn't do tidyverse yet, so I'll just do that here. Okay. Oh, I guess I did. Okay, so in here this should give me the amount of seconds. Gives me the amount of seconds from the difference between these two dates. Okay, and then what's nice about this is that we can say pipe this into as.numeric, and then say hours, and this should work. Okay, 168 hours in a week. So that's kind of cool. So we can convert that information into time, into hours or seconds. That's cool. In terms of measuring time, this is the same thing. Kind of went over this already. As duration, hours minus HMS is hours, minutes, seconds. Hours, minutes, seconds. You see the difference between the two times. That's huge, and then we can convert it into whatever we want to. We convert this back into hour, convert this into minutes or anything, or even back to days. So I have some practice problems, and I'll let you all get to that.